This is a video that I like to call reality check. I will compose many different views of many different people who all believe what they are actually saying. Yeah, it is their view, their experiences. They have worked in these government projects. They even contacted, well, ETs or aliens. They all believe in it, okay? These are not my experiences. I just wanted to make a composition of different perspectives and different realities. And yeah, okay. We'll check out a small introduction now from PsychTruth. She's a psychologist and has a very nice channel, so if you're interested in her views on conditioning, mind control, programmation in general, check it out. Have fun. Ciao.
As you've known, I've talked a lot about mind control and done some videos on brainwashing and such. Now, what if I told you that you were being bombarded with mind control techniques on a daily basis? So there's 3 basic levels of mind control. Now, each level corresponds with a different school of psychology. So the first level appeals to consciousness. The second level appeals to unconsciousness, and the third level appeals to biology. So in terms of schools of psychology, the first one, consciousness, has to do with and corresponds with cognitive psychology. Cognitive means aware. You're aware of what's going on. The second one is unconsciousness. That corresponds with behavioral psychology. The third one is biological psychology. That would also be psychiatry. Now, this is when you try to control the mind through physical means, such as drugs and electroshock. So let's look at the different levels of mind control and what fits in between. The first level we're going to look at is the conscious level or the cognitive level. This level deals with information. It never deals with punishment, duress, or physical pain. And it appeals to a person's reason. So the 2 basic forms of this would be education and ideological indoctrination. So a good example of education is when you get your driver's license. You take certain classes, you learn the rules of the road, and the intention is to make you behave a certain way when you drive. Now, most people wouldn't have a problem with that, because if people didn't behave a certain way when they drive, then we'd have a problem. So ideological indoctrination. What do I mean by that? Well, ideological means worldview, your philosophy, and indoctrination means what you're educated in. So what are you educated in your worldview? So this would include your political education, your religious education, and even your science education. Now what we mean is, how do you view the world by what you are educated by? So at this level we also have to mention propaganda. Now the word propaganda means information, but because propaganda has been abused in the past, people have a negative viewpoint of it. Now the basic idea is someone wants you to view the world in a certain way, so they educate you to do so.
That was PsychTruth on mind control. Now we're going to check out some footage of witnesses of the so-called Disclosure Project, led by Dr. Stephen Greer. In 2001, these people came to the press practically and all testified. These are over 500 ex-government witnesses who work in so-called black ops operations or black ops projects concerning ET technology or ancient German technology, you might say, or we don't know. All these people claim to have worked in these secret cover-up operations, one concerning the moon, where they apparently found a moon base, and that NASA was actually covering these photos every single time they get it through their digital stream. They edit these photos to make it look like that there is no ET base on the moon. In my opinion, it is actually a Nazi base from the so-called Imperial Germans, but that's another story.
We're here today to disclose the truth about a subject that has been ridiculed and questioned, denied for at least 50 years. The men and women who are on this stage and the some 350 additional military intelligence witnesses to the so-called UFO matter and extraterrestrial intelligence can prove and will prove that we are not alone. In 1993, a group of military advisors to this project and I met out in the countryside in Virginia, and we decided that it was time for civilians, military, intelligence, and other people to come together to disclose the truth about the subject which is called UFOs. Since that time, I have personally briefed a sitting Director of Central Intelligence, James Woolsey, President Clinton's first CIA director. I have personally briefed the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the head of Intelligence Joint Staff, members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, many members of Congress, members of the European leadership, the Japanese cabinet, and others. And what I have found is that none of them are surprised that this is true, but they are uniformly horrified that they have not had access to these projects. We can establish through these witnesses whom we have identified, which now number over 400, and these are people who have been inside the CIA, NSA, NRO, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army, all divisions of the intelligence and military community, as well as...
My name is Carl Wolf, and I was a precision electronics photographic repairman with a top secret crypto clearance in the United States Air Force. I was stationed at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. In 1965, in mid-1965, I was loaned to the Lunar Orbiter Project at NASA on Langley Field. They had problems with a piece of electronic equipment that was bottlenecking their production of photographs. I went to the facility, and when I walked into the facility, there were scientists from all over the world. I was stunned, actually, to see people at a NASA project from all over the world. It didn't make any sense to me initially. I was taken into the laboratory where the equipment was malfunctioning. I was interested in how the whole process functioned, how the data got from the lunar orbiter to the laboratory. Asked the young man if he described the process to me. He did. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, in a very distressed way, by the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point, I was very concerned because I knew we were working on compartmentalized security. He had breached security, and I was actually frightened at that moment. I worked there for 3 more days, and I remember going home and naively thinking, I can't wait to hear about this on the evening news. And here it is, more than 30 years later, and I hope we hear about it tonight. And I will testify under oath before Congress.
That was Carl Wolf from the Disclosure Project. A real witness, but again, many people think he's just doing it for fun. I doubt that. Well, that was Carl Wolf. He has seen photographic evidence, well, according to his report, and he's a very credible witness. You could see that he was not trying to make you believe anything. But still, people have been conditioned not to believe anything that people say. Even with my experiences, people doubt it. And I'm not lying. So Carl Wolf has seen photographic evidence of a base on the moon. According to some other writers, this is a so-called Nazi base or a Imperial German base that has been built there after the war, after the Second World War, with this so-called the Nazi esoteric survival myth. The German High Command knew that they were going to lose the war. 9 months before the war ended, they relocated most of their material, high-tech material, super weapons, and the best troops, the elite troops. Over 500,000 troops were relocated to South America. This is also very well documented online, but you have to search for it because it's actually a small niche of the conspiracy theory. Many authors call this power that actually doesn't exist officially the so-called third power, or the Imperial Germans, because they compare it to the two existing superpowers, the USA and the former Soviet Union. The third power has an incredible arsenal of superweapons, UFO-type aircraft, cigar-shaped UFOs, and this could also explain the entire UFO phenomenon. Even ancient documents, SS documents, depict these UFO-type aircrafts and have been designed by the German in the early 40s, even as back as in the early 30s or late 30s. On my other channel, Kenshin 013, there are some nice videos on this topic. I suggest you check it out. Now we're going to check out that video on secret underground bases in America. And, well, enjoy. Secret underground bases. There is an author that actually wrote a book about this, Richard Sauder, PhD, and there are a couple of videos here on YouTube as well. So this is not a conspiracy or a hoax. They did build over 500 underground bases in the USA. The people living down there get a different programming than the people living on the surface on Earth. They get a programming like close to the movie The Island. The Island was practically a movie that depicts how they are being kept down there. Those people do not come up anymore. This is an entrance to one of these underground bases. According to this map, they have built a huge network of dumb military bases in the USA, deep underground military base. They are connected by high-speed railways with Siemens technology, maglev levitation that can go up to 400-500 kilometers in the hour. This would also explain why Siemens doesn't actually sell its prototype of the maglev magnetic levitational train. They have invested billions of Deutschmark into the creation of this actually flying train, but have found no client, which is already very suspicious.
The real heart and soul of the New World Order plan lies in the mysterious underground military bases scattered all over the world, including roughly 30 in Canada, 140 in the United States and more than 1,500 worldwide. Underground bases not only houses and conceals non-human life forms with incredible powers, but conceals an underground warehouse of sophisticated superhuman technology used for mind control, advanced military weaponry, and weather manipulation, with the eventual goal of depopulating the world. The average depth of these bases is over a mile, and they are basically whole cities underground. They all are between 2.66 and 4.25 cubic miles in size. They have laser drilling machines that can drill a tunnel 7 miles long in one day. The Black Projects sidestep the authority of Congress, which as we know is illegal. Right now, the New World Order is depending on these bases.
Now we're going to check some footage on Phil Schneider, an engineer and geologist that worked in these underground bases. He actually helped build them. He has many first-hand accounts and is practically a first-hand witness.
I'm Phil Schneider. I spent 17 years in black budget programs, government geologist, as engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications. Self-taught metallurgist, became kind of famous in my own right. I basically would have a set of notes here, but they're unavailable in all this melee. Up here I have different artifacts explaining some of them are alien metals that have been produced both on this planet and the confines of outer space that are now used in all stealth aircraft. All stealth aircraft, for instance, all black jets, what you're seeing of black helicopters and the like, the skins and the coatings and the residues that are used predominantly in the aircraft themselves, in the airframes and the rotor blades and the fans, and in some cases in submarines, special titanium hulls, in the Phoenix class submarines now. All this has come from alien technology. 1947 is what the public has been told. Something crashed in the backyard in New Mexico, a place called Roswell, New Mexico. Unfortunately, that's what the public's been told. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest. Well, the alien thing is more than just what I'd call a non-visible threat. We on the surface, first of all information dealing with alien or alien reproduced technology or alien reproduced vehicles or any other kinds of things well hidden from the American public. Our black budget, for instance, garners $1.023 trillion every 2 years. It's over $500 billion a year. Right now, there are 131 active deep underground military bases in the United States. There's 1,477 of them worldwide. My colleague Al Bielek has actually been on some of the high-speed railways, the Magneto-Leviton trains that connect all the deep underground military bases within the United States. He's been on a Mach 2 train, what you'd call high-tech. We have nothing like this on the surface. The public basically has been totally lied to. We're considered stupid or even moronic in some cases. It's got to stop. If we're going to gain our country back, we must, and I repeat, must we must instill in our public officials, anybody that goes and does public service, they must tell us the truth. If they cannot do this, then they must be impeached, or they must be removed from office. The truth cannot totally come out. What's the use in us having anything called freedom?
That was Philip Schneider, a geologist and engineer who worked in these super secret projects for over 17 years. He says that the technology comes from ETs or aliens, where I actually think that the technology is secret hoarded technology of the Third Reich. The Americans, they conquered all of Germany, also the Russians, and they found incredible weaponry and incredible weapons, incredible bombs, and all of high tech. For the Americans that actually conquered Germany, they did not even destroy the industry, they destroyed the cities, they destroyed all German cities, but kept practically the war factories intact such that they could catch them. Well, they had an incredible war booty, and they measured the number of patents, of German patents, not in page numbers, but in tons. There were like 5 or 6 wagons, train wagons, full of patents that the Americans looted from the German industry and from the German defense systems. The first computer was also built in Germany. It was called the Zuse 1 and the Zuse 2 and the Zuse 3. They also looted this. And then Bell, the companies in America, slowly introduced this technology through leaking actually the already known technology of the German Reich, of the Third Reich. This they keep doing. Also the laser technology was engineered by German scientists back then. It's called the KFK, the Kraftstrahlkanone. The evidence is also on the web. Now we'll have a small video on the German UFOs, the Hanubus and Brill discs, and German secret weapons, of course. Enjoy.
So what did you see, Jordan?
It was a cigar shape, but I've seen it before. I've seen this exact same thing twice before. Once in Burbank about 1.5 to 2 years ago with Paul Hunt of Atlantis Books. We were standing out in the parking lot one afternoon, late afternoon, and Paul and I were standing in the parking lot, and overhead, it looked to be about maybe two or three blocks away, was this long cigar-shaped thing just floating there for a few minutes. And the more we started staring at it, the more it became obvious that this was a UFO, because it wasn't moving, it was just sitting there. And then it just went, it's gone. This one was identical, but now we're seeing it in the daylight. That was the first time I saw it was in the evening, early evening. I've seen it, like I said, twice before, and this is the third time I've seen it, but it's still there. But he's really moved out now. Now it's turning around. You can see it turning. We saw it when it was close. We saw it when it was close here. When it was very, very close. And the moment I got out of the car, I saw it, and I said to Wendy, I said, well, there's the UFO Paul Hunt and I have seen before.
Hitler's Flying Saucers. This is a book by Henry Stevens. I highly recommend it. People intend to believe that people create this information or this documentation for fun, to deceive others. Whereas it is actually that all this information is available online for you to see. But we don't want to believe it, because we are afraid of the truth or possible truths. Chapter 7. Disposition of German saucer technology after the war. It is known that the Germans made contingency plans for the war's loss. On August 10, 1944, 9 months before the war in Europe ended, a meeting was called at the Hotel Rote Haus in Strasbourg. In attendance were representatives of all the major German industrial concerns, including IG Farben, Thyssen, Siemens, Krupp, Daimler-Benz, Rheinmetall Borsig, as well as representatives of the major German banks. Meeting with them were members of the SS. They were planning measures which will ensure the survival after the coming German defeat. See Part 4. Scientists, scientific plans, strategic materials, and money were to be taken from Germany and secured in secret hiding places. Long-range cargo aircraft were to fly from Germany to Spain, carrying the goods. From here, items were to be loaded onto U-boats bound for South America. It is possible that other destinations were also planned, such as Japan and the Antarctic base originally established in 1938-1939 by the Richer Antarctic Expedition. The Antarctic base was first attacked by forces of many nations, led by the United States, in a 1946 military action codenamed Operation High Jump. This operation involved a fleet of ships, including an aircraft carrier, submarines, and support craft. It also involved aircraft and 4,000 armed troops under the command of Admiral Richard Byrd. Immediately, 4 aircraft were mysteriously lost, and the whole operation, scheduled for 6 months' duration, was cancelled after less than 6 weeks of operation. The Antarctic base, Landix Point 211, C-13, was in operation until the late 1950s, when it became the subject of an American nuclear test. In this test, 3 bombs were detonated under the cover of the International Geophysical Year of 1957-1958. Landish claims the type of rockets used in the test to attack Point 211 were prototypes of American Polaris missiles, a solid-fuel rocket which was used later operationally, the final design being fired from submarines underwater. Detonation of these atomic weapons over the base generated electromagnetic shock waves which, it was hoped, would destroy apparatus in the base used for defensive purposes. C-16. Landish claims this tactic failed. The electromagnetic pulse attack was insufficient to destroy the improved apparatus. C-17. Both High Jump and this 1957-1958 attack turned out not only to be a fiasco, but to be superfluous. The Soviet Union and the United States were informally always allies, because they were controlled by the same puppeteers or masters. I'm not going to call them because you know who they are. How long would it take 2 superpowers to conquer the world? Less than 10 years? Unless there was, of course, a third power that was fighting them all along. And this third power has secret scattered bases all around the world, and even some sources say on the moon and even on Mars. But of course this goes into the science fiction realm, and many people are not intent to believe this. This was a small introduction into the Andromeda spacecraft, allegedly built by the Germans during the Second World War. According to some sources, they were built in the submarine production facilities. That is why they look so submarine-like. They have 2 anti-gravity drive systems on board, and they can virtually float in the air. Anti-gravitics was also pioneered and engineered by SS scientists also back then. I know it sounds a little bit science fiction, but check out Henry Stevens' books, Hitler's Flying Saucers, and look for Randolph Winters online. Ciao.